Okay guys, here we go. We're doing our very first update of for Dark Age of. My name is Mike, also known as Tef, or the other DM. I guess I'll start out with some basics. We had about 6 players, one of the bigger games I've ever DM'd, with about a 15-year pause in between the last time I've DM'd. We had a level 1, of course all of these characters started at level 1, a dwarf named Corvin, an elf named Fandel, a cleric named Deviak Chorster, an elf named Janella Darkspur, a level 1 fighter named Thraben, and a magic user named the Cardinal. Now, I let these guys just pretty much have free reign over what kind of characters they wanted to roll and what they wanted done. They just kind of went with what they felt like, so I was just going to roll with it. Again, I didn't have a whole lot planned. My biggest motive for the evening was just that everyone have fun. Maybe myself getting back into the swing of DMing. This seemed pretty successful. We had a whole night of laughing and some of the worst dice rolls I've ever seen in my life. It was a given. There was, I think, the Fandel. Yeah, he was played by an 11-year-old. He'd never even touched the game before, so I was thrilled to see him really start to get a chance to play. So we started off in the stereotypical bar in the stereotypical castle city, biggest city in the kingdom. It was the capital. And one of the king's guards came in and offered, I think it was 50 gold to anybody who was interested in trying to help end this scourge of undead that had been occupying the city. And of course, in my campaign, undead isn't going to be a completely unheard of idea, but it had been picked up significantly in the recent days and weeks. So of course, being nice to me, I think they all decided to agree that they would go along with -1. The Cardinal didn't say anything. He didn't disagree, but he didn't agree with me. Now, I don't have a real feel for this player. I've played a couple sessions with him as a player, not as a DM, and he was playing a completely different kind of character. I'm used to him playing a chaotic thief. This time he's playing a lawful magic user. So I thought, okay, well, he's being quiet, but he's being polite. Maybe we're in a large group, everyone's talking loud, who knows? We'll see what happens. So I kind of roll with it, and I think Thraben, our fighter, was particularly unlucky with his starting gold roll, so he needed some extra gear. So he asked the guard, and he said, "Hey, can I get half up front?" Instantly, of course, everybody wants their half up front, and whatever, that's fine. Let him have it. I have a tendency of probably being a bit too nice to my characters. I could have killed a couple of people the other night, and I didn't do it. It's not fun to re-roll. It's fine. Of course, if someone's being ridiculous, I'll probably punish them for it. Enough of that. So, they all agreed, and I went and did a little bit of shopping. I reminded them they didn't have a ton of time. They met back up, and there they were at the cemetery gates. And they meet up, and somebody, I can't remember who, asked if the guard was going to be coming with. So I stated, well, no, he's in his pajamas, he's ready to sleep. There's no way he's coming with tonight. It's not part of his job. So he tells them, yes, here's the graveyard, and points them in a direction, tells it seems to be concentrated towards that direction. Again, guys, it's been 15 years since I've DM'd a game. I shot from the hip. So they proceed, and they're following along rather nicely. It's something I've very rarely experienced in any of my sessions. A lot of people like to, go where they want to go. So I was lucky there. They continue on to find this crypt, and I mentioned to them, as you approach this crypt, you notice the air is getting colder. It's colder, it's trying to give some sort of ambiance. And if they continued on, and I don't know if they'd investigated further, they probably would have found a lot more. I had some plans with what the temperature change could have influenced. But that's okay. We had a lot of new players, a lot of players that hadn't played in a long time. That was fine. So we continued on, and I think it was our dwarf noticed that the very entrance of the crypt had been recently manipulated. The door was slightly open, and I had a whole story as to how the entire encounter, the evening's encounter, had come to pass. As to this entity ended up being the end fighter, the end boss, had stumbled upon this crypt looking for valuables and stumbled through the wall, actually, unearthing some old ancient dwarven ruins that had locked away an ancient artifact that, had corrupted him and given him the ability to have some necromantic powers. And again, it wasn't a ton of investigation, but I will continue this update and recap after dinner. Thank you. So, okay, we are back with our high-quality camera here. So we were at the entrance to the tomb, and one of our newer players, Corbin the Dwarf, had decided to kind of test the waters and push open the door to the crypt. And as he did so, I decided it was time for some action, and there was 8 skeletons behind the door to this crypt, a raiding party that was getting ready to unleash its nastiness upon the town. So just at the exact same moment he grabs the door, a skeletal hand reaches around the door and grabs his hand, and it's on. Let's roll initiative. And this is the point where the party finally realizes that mage isn't here. Wait a minute, yeah, we were talking with a mage, and I guess he never really did answer, did he? Says, I was hoping for a really simple, let's all go forth and conquer sort of quest, but I don't know, I'm all for some good RP. Maybe I figured this would be a good opportunity for some RP between opposing alignments, seeing as the Cardinal, the mage, had decided to roll a lawful character where everyone else was either neutral or chaotic. And so I kind of gave him probably gave him too much leeway, but I let him decide that he didn't necessarily have to roll with the party, and that's fine. We can roll in multiple mission, multiple campaign sort of deal. And combat ensued. There's Thraven, our other fighter, had just a miserable night when it came to dice rolls. Poor guy. I truly felt bad for him. I was trying to just send him as much good mojo as I could to try to get some good hits out of this poor guy. And I think he actually ended up taking the first attack and bringing him down to pretty dangerous levels of hit points. So we had to actually fall back and receive healing from our cleric, Mr. Devaic. And so Devaic healed him up. The dwarf and the 2 elves attacked, dealing some damage. And the cleric had cast Turn Undead, turning all but one of the skeletons, and they just fled. The rest fled back down the hallway at the entrance of the crypt. So they dispatched this first skeleton, and just before it fell, the Cardinal decided that he was going to have one of his dogs attack. So I guess he had been following close behind, but he decided he wanted to enter the fray from inside the tomb. I don't know how we're going to play that. I don't know how to write that. He'd already been inside. I left some mystery to it. Sure. I gave him a lot of leeway that night. I really did. So yeah, he appears mysteriously from inside this tomb and finishes taking down this first skeleton, at which point I decided I didn't want it to be that simple, and I let the other skeletons return. Which they dispatched in good form. They seemed a little less than thrilled when the skeletons did return. Yeah, they dispatched them. It was no big deal. So then they, after this combat, they, good old Fandel, one of our elves, our youngest player, he was 11 years old, really trying to get a feel for what he wanted to be in Dungeons & Dragons. What a good kid, I gotta say, that he was nothing but motivated. He was really just excited to be there. And he was gathering bones, he was gathering this, he was gathering that. By the end of the night, I think he had a good galleon full of assorted trophies from every single thing they'd encountered. So they do their bit. They search the bodies. They don't find anything of any real value and move on further into the crypt. Once inside the crypt, they search around this main, room inside there with all the caskets and find that one wall has in fact caved in, and there's footsteps leading through the hole. And so they enter through the hole at the back of the crypt, and they find a cavern. It seems to be an underground, long-lost cavern with a good trail of footsteps, fairly large. And no one really tried to make any sort of a experimental or investigative roll or request to try to figure out exactly what it was they were following. So we didn't really go into that any farther, so that's fine. And again, not a ton of experience on some parts. Maybe we weren't just thinking of it on others, and that's fine. We were still having fun. Everyone was real happy, laughing, playing, having fun. They continue down this cave, and they come across what seems to be old ancient dwarven ruins. And the plot line originally had this planned out to be an ancient dwarven prison where they had entombed a very dangerous relic that had caused almost the destruction of all these lands. An ancient necromancer's orb of power that he had stored in the end his soul in. It's what he had been using to gather every single force of undead he could get his hands on. Just a truly malicious, evil character. We didn't get into that though, so who cares? So they enter these ruins, and I said, well, I haven't had any traps in this game yet. It's time. Let's show these guys what's going to happen in a good old-fashioned dungeon crawl. And I said, okay, well, who's got point? Everyone, without fail, points. Corbin. He's first. All right, so yeah, Corbin enters first, springs the trap, misses everything, failed his dice rolls, and big pile of rocks on the head. He dies. Well, he doesn't die. He gets down to 0 life. The cleric heals him back up. No big deal. So they continue on, and they find that this ruin is very simple. From what they can see, is a long hallway with a small door on one side and a set of double doors on the other. They deliberate for a short time to figure out what they want to do. And again, the mage has stopped talking. So someone asks, well, what do you think? And he says, I'm not even there. I probably should have decided to say, well, you need to tell me when you're not going to follow, when you're going to go somewhere, if you're going to try to wander off, I'd like to know about it. I should have gone farther with it. I didn't do that. So, at that point, the cardinal has disappeared again. And they decide to go in through the smaller door on the left. And in there I had planned there to be an ancient armory, and one of the great defenders that had locked them in there was this armor-clad, now zombie, ancient defender of the land. And with him he had his famous sword that he had used. And I was real vague, and so I didn't have a great story written as I think I even called him Captain What's-His-Name from the Battle of blah blah blah. And so again, the cleric tries to cast Turn Undead, succeeds, and I guess I could have given the guy some plot armor, but he's affected, but there's nowhere to run, so he pretty much is startled. And Thraven our fighter decides it's time to take advantage of the situation, makes a dexterity attempt, and snatches the sword away. So now we've got an armor-clad zombie, which they dispatched, and there was no problem. And just at this point, the mage slides me a note and says, okay, well, I've played via note before, that's fine. I've actually played with in games where I've had characters that were too unintelligent to speak, or had their tongue removed in a lost battle or something. They were incapable of speech, so they communicated everything to me and to the other party members via notepad. So I'm okay with this. He passes me a note. He wants to cast ventriloquism on the zombie as it's dying to try to spook out Thraven. Again, the Cardinal, I'm sorry. I'm probably giving away way too much here, but we can stop metagaming, at a certain point. And so the zombie locks eyes with Thraben and says, "You're doomed. Your time is short. Things are going poorly. You know what you've done." And so the zombie goes down. They search the room. They search the body. All they come across is that this is the great sword that Thraben had so heroically stolen away. I think it might have been his only successful roll for the night. And so he's got this sword, and he asks, "Well, what is it?" I said, "It's an old tarnished sword. You can't really tell at this point. It looks like it might have at one time been a very nice weapon, but you're going to have to get it appraised or cleaned or repaired." So it's fine, so he stows it away. And he ends up taking the zombie's plate mail because the poor guy had such lousy army. The bad rolls started early and continued on. So then they decide it's time to go enter into this main room with the double doors. And as they enter, they notice right away there's a group of 4 skeletons, 2 goblins, and a hobgoblin sitting on a throne, holding an axe in one hand and this mysterious blue orb in his other hand. Now, if they had investigated further down the corridor that this was on, they would have found the pedestal that had housed this orb. And, well, maybe they did. Forgive me, guys, it has been a couple of days. I'm still a little behind. I have lost a little bit. I think they may have actually discovered the pedestal, and that it had been disturbed and something was missing from it. So again, they enter into this main room, and it's obvious it's time for a fight. So they instantly, before even initiative, the cleric announces he wants to cast Turn Undead. This is the point where I realize I'm letting him cast Turn Undead without even consuming a turn. I'm so rusty. I've completely lost sense of how we're supposed to play this game. And so he casts Turn Undead, and the skeletons scatter. So now we're left facing a hobgoblin that seems to be significant, a great wolf, and 2 goblins. So the cardinal still has not identified himself or put himself out there as, yeah, I'm here with you guys, as passes me another note. And this time he wants to cast ventriloquism on one of the goblins to say something foul about one of the other goblin's mother. In my head, this was building as a really interesting RP situation. I thought maybe it was building to some sort of in-play where there was a bunch of animosity between the cardinal and other members of the party, or maybe they'd known each other before and there was something being repaid. I didn't know. I was really, everyone seemed to still be having fun, so I kind of ran with it. So yeah, in the infighting between the goblins ensues. They drop their weapons and just start punching at each other, and I was every turn diligently making to see if they could make a save throw against spell, I guess, to see if maybe they could snap out of this, realize that something hadn't happened. It wasn't a charm spell. I should have thought better of that, and maybe just after a turn or two been like, okay, wait a minute now, that might not have been you. And so combat is ensuing, and I don't remember the exact specifics of it. But the wolf had attacked the cleric. That's it. And at this point, I think maybe it was either some of the best party play that I thought of, but right away they decided it was time to defend the cleric, and everyone, minus Thraben, just went after this wolf, and I almost felt bad for the thing. And it was doing some damage to the cleric, some damage to other players, but in the end, the wolf was taken down. And then the hobgoblin made a critical miss. Even I was rolling poorly that night, and buried his hand axe right into one of the goblin's skulls. And then that's when the other one snapped out of it and decided it's time to defend against these 6 intruders. So now the wolf has been dispatched. One of the goblins is down. The hobgoblin is doing battle with Thraben, and the poor guy just couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with this greatsword. He's literally just shifting. I made a joke that he was trying to intimidate him with threatening poses, and so that continued on for a turn or two, and the hobgoblins attacking and missing or doing little bits of damage here and there, and they start to then Thraben out of just like I think pure boredom connects a blow, and I make note that he notices that whenever the hobgoblin receives any damage or takes a hit, the orb pulses with light. His life is slowly sucked into it. And the rest of the party is dispatched to this goblin. Now it is everyone facing down the hobgoblin, and I can't remember if it was Janella or Fandel. I think it might have been Fandel who finally dealt the killing blow and just lopped this hobgoblin's head off, and I get another note from the cardinal saying that he wants to cast ventriloquism again on the hobgoblin this time, and again lock eyes with Thraben. He really had it out for that guy, it seemed, and threatened him again. He says, "You're doomed. You and your party are not long for this world." And then his head is severed, and he falls to the floor dead, or so we think. Then the orb starts glows even brighter with bright blue light and just shatters to dust. And the hobgoblin's body reasserts itself and starts attacking as an undead creature. I had rolled and re-rolled life for when this would happen, and battle continued, this time with just his hand axe against the party, and I guess I could have put more into that. I guess hindsight's 20/20. And we just continued basic combat through that. This now with the cardinal in play, using primarily his dogs, because apparently the spell he'd memorized had been ventriloquism. And I had allowed magic users to, cleric or magic user, to use their spells more than once per rest. And I've just always struggled with that. The idea that at level 1, okay, I get my one spell, and now I guess I'm done for the day. So instead of having him lob darts, I'm just going to let him cast his spell 5 times a day. And then you have to rest. No big deal. Trying to give these lower level magic characters some playability, some fun. And a warrior can swing his axe all day long. Why can't I cast magic missile, at least once per fight? And so they've dispatched this hobgoblin finally, again, and he's dead. So now they start searching the room, and as soon as the orb had been destroyed, the skeletons, if anyone had asked, I would have told them right away, the skeletons fell to piles of bones, because the source of the evil power had been destroyed. And again, no investigation, so no one truly knew that until they turned around to look for the skeletons, finding them dead. So then the cardinal decides he's going to scoop up a big handful of this powder and make for the exit. And the rest of the party thinks, wait, nay. We're going to investigate. We're going to hang out longer and try to find some more things to do here. And that's all I'd had for them. I was thinking for a shorter encounter, dungeon, whatever, to try to just really get a feel for the group and see if everyone who wanted to play, would be enjoying this style of play or this game. Who knows, maybe we wanted to try a different set of rules. Who knew? So at that point they decide to camp, and the cardinal says, well, no, I'm leaving. And so they tell him, no, you're staying with us. And I don't think they actually incapacitated him or bound him in any way, even though the cleric did suggest it. And the cardinal family says, well, fine, I'll take first watch. And the cleric says, not by yourself, you won't. And so they decide that the cleric and the cardinal are going to take first watch. And the cardinal decides to cast sleep, after resting, to cast sleep on the cleric, which I remember we did do something to determine. He tried to make the saving throw and failed. The cleric did. So he was put to sleep. Now, in all fairness, guys, the mage could have made a really simple decision to coup de grace the entire party at this point, since they were being so negative and aggressive to him, which I kind of understand at this point. I mean, he had kind of been given license to do whatever he felt at this point, so it may have been a little imbalanced. But hey, it's just a game. So we'd had fun, and I truly didn't feel that bad about it. And they finally decided it's time to go back and find the guard and maybe try to get their reward, see if the day has been done. They've been underground all night. They don't know what time it is. So they exit the crypt. They find it is daytime, and they find the magistrate's office that they've been informed to go to receive the rest of their pay, and they get their money. And Thraben decides to go get his newfound weapon appraised and cleaned up, and I gave him a name for it. I think it was Idabron was the name that came to mind. This was the legendary sword of the captain that had served in that great battle, and he wielded it fiercely, and it was known as to be a great weapon against the great evil they faced back in the day. And so he kept that, and I believe the rest of the party decided that they would wait to find out if the pox upon this land had truly been lifted, because they'd been promised further compensation should they end this threat beyond just living through the night. Now, I said, well, yes, of course, but we're going to have to send this off to the Mages Guild to determine if it truly is safe now. So a couple days pass, they do some shopping, they do some bartering, they nearly get to a little infighting, searching all over this town for the cardinal, which is, oddly enough, the only lawful character in the party is being hunted down like a criminal. And so the days pass, and they finally do kind of catch up with them back at the magistrate's office to receive their further compensation, which I can't remember exactly what I rewarded them. I don't have this character sheets in front of me right now, but they take this time to gather some more gear. The mage, I believe, went and got him some more protective robes, because I think he had figured out that I wasn't going to let him just hide in the shadows forever. And all in all, I believe we all had a good time. And in all fairness, it wasn't the most serious campaign anyone has ever run, but in all fairness, we did have an 11-year-old who had never touched a character sheet before. He was trying to play, as far as I knew, he was trying to play Dragon Age, trying to do this, so I was just trying to keep everyone entertained. We'll probably move in a more serious angle from here on, and try to bring some more actual role play into it instead of just continued combat and jokes. Not that there isn't a fun place for that, but I think we could have a really good group here. Hopefully I can get some of everyone who had just started playing to come back. I had a great time. I've truly very rarely encountered that cohesive of a group, even though one of the members was completely out of the group. So further updates to come. I hope we could continue to play. I really enjoyed running a game again, and we'll see if we can't make it even more interesting. Thank you.